When I was 7 years old, I saw my granddad fly. Yup. We used to visit my grandparents' house every weekend, and I used to love it. Not just because I got to overindulge in Nanny Bird's famous chocolate cakes, but because my granddad was a magician. And every weekend, he had a brand new magic trick to dazzle us with, whether that be fire eating, disappearing doves, the substitution trunk. But this one weekend was special because this one weekend, my granddad told us that he had learned to levitate. And I remember standing in that small carpeted corridor just a few meters away from him. And I remember watching him make 2 or 3 failed attempts at lifting off the ground. And I remember even at 7 years old thinking, people can't fly. But what if my granddad can? With a blink of an eye, my granddad's feet were in the air. My granddad was flying. Now, I know what you're thinking. Your granddad was a magician. It was a magic trick. There would have been a perfectly logical explanation as to why his feet were in the air. And I agree with you, you are right. But that's not really the bit that I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is that magic moment. The moment that I saw his feet in the air and I had butterflies in the pit of my stomach, my heart beating out my chest, my mind expanded into this world of opportunity. It's like something just unlocked. That's the bit that I'm interested in, and that's the bit I want to copy and paste. I guess I'm lucky like that. I've been raised in a very creative family, one that encouraged play and discovery and magic, but what I know now is the world is not always welcoming to creativity. In fact, what I know now is the world is facing a creativity crisis. Since the early 90s, right through to today, researchers continue to find that people are getting less and less creative. It's not surprising, really, if you think about it, because society doesn't welcome creativity with its constant fangirling of science and data above art. Rarely are we encouraged to practice creativity, which is ultimately problem solving, yet we are continually asked to solve problems. So with all that being said, I have a question. How can we be more creative? Well, I'm Jo Bird, and I'm an award-winning creative, self-published author, creativity coach, and a believer in the impossible. And today I want to share with you 2 words that transformed my creativity, 2 very simple words that I use to approach all my problem solving. And I'm going to tell you how you can use these 2 words today to transform your creativity too. See, here's the thing. From a very young age, we are taught that logic validates ideas. We are taught to approach all our problem solving with a very rational mindset. 1 + 1 = 2. We are taught that maths and science is at the very core of academia, leading to the highest paid jobs. Ultimately, logic is our meal ticket through life. But as creatives, we don't obsess over science and data because we know that logic is a term that can only really confidently be used in hindsight. Of course, everything can be logical in hindsight. The world is round. The Game of Thrones season finale was not acceptable, and I should not have drunk text my ex again. We've all been there, don't judge me. But in the thick of the problem, right in the heart of that creative process, it is messy, it is uncertain, we cannot guarantee the outcome. Even the world's greatest creatives were once stood scratching their heads, wondering how the hell am I going to make this work? But what if there's another side to the coin? What if logic is limiting us and there are new and better ways to solve our problems? What if we could reach new heights of creativity just by saying those are 2 exact words? What if? See, what if is a cue to shift our mindset, because creativity is all about mindset. So we are shifting our mindset from a problem to an opportunity, from logic to psychological. Let me explain how this works. So when we begin the act of creativity, we default to think along a line of predictability. This line of predictability uses our previous memories and experiences to devise very rational ideas, ones we've tried before that we know worked. ideas we've seen other people try before that we know worked, and ideas that perhaps we've not tried before, but through logical thinking we know the consequence of them failing is minimal. But the problem with these ideas is they're not very inspiring. What we need is a bit more originality. What we need is to think further. And this is the moment we ask, what if? And instead of jumping to one single rational solution, we begin to play in an open world of discovery. See, what if allows us to generate true original thinking by playing with radical, unlimited thoughts, nonsense even. We can laugh at the impossible, we can believe in the make-believe, happy accidents will occur, and ideas will breed ideas. What if allows us to take a leap from logic just for a second, to practice the art of dreaming without consequence, to adopt that childlike state of mind, one that feels brave. Brave because we don't know how these ideas will be received, and brave because we don't know how these ideas, where they will lead. But bravery creates legacy. Some people call it blue sky thinking. Others, they call it thinking outside the box. Google calls it moonshot thinking, and researchers, they call it divergent thinking. No matter what we call it, I think all that truly matters is that we get there. Because when we're up there, we're giving ourselves more content to work with. We can add more ingredients to our pot. Our meal becomes tastier, flavors mix with flavors. The magic starts to occur. Just think about it for a second. Nobody asked Steve Jobs for the iPhone. There was not a market demand for it. He was just a man thinking further. The same as Freddie Mercury and his elaborate showmanship, and Zaha Hadid and her painterly approach to architecture. These people were not bound by logic. These people were creating magic and making it make sense afterwards. Even scientists work this way. Like physicist Richard Feynman, who in 1964 famously said about his own scientific process, first we guess it, and then we compute the consequence of the guess. So maybe the problem is not that we're not creative. Maybe the real problem is that we're skipping an entire step of creativity. Guys, I think we're failing to explore. And the problem with that is, if you don't explore, you cannot discover. Don't you want to just pick up predictability a little bit? Don't you want to be just a bit more mischievous? Okay, so we know that in order to be more creative, we need to think further. And in order to think further, we need to practice asking what if. But how do we actually apply that? Well, for argument's sake, let's just imagine we've been asked to advertise a brand new shoe. Here's one I drew earlier. So here's a brand new shoe, and we're going to talk through it together. So talk through my creative process as a team and see if we can come up with a good idea. People are getting scared now. I'm going to pick on you. You never know. So first things first, what do? I create something called an anchor. And what I mean by an anchor is a feeling or a sentiment that I want to communicate through this piece of creative. So this is an idea that I can always come back to throughout the whole creative process. Marketeers, they call it the red thread. Do we have any marketeers in the room? No marketeers. That's great, because we can just ditch the red thread. It's very annoying. I call it an anchor because it always keeps me grounded. So in this case, let's just imagine that our anchor is that we want people to feel special when they wear this shoe. Like 1 in a million. That's what we want people to think. So that's our anchor, and that's something we can always come back to in the creative process. The next thing I do is I draw that line of predictability and I throw up all those very rational ideas, the ones that jump straight into my head, because they are there for a reason. So get them off your chest. So in this case, let's just say, okay, if we're advertising this shoe, maybe we're just going to see a person walking down the street in the shoe. Streetwear, very obvious. Maybe it's somebody playing sports in shoe, very Nike, yeah? So we'll just see people playing and winning in sports in this shoe. Or maybe it's just the shoe by itself, and we just list the product features and benefits, and people will really connect to that, you know. Salespeople will love it. It's very obvious. It'll do the job. Get them off our chest. Now we have some fun, because now this is where we get to ask, what if? And honestly, all I do in this moment is I channel that 7-year-old me. So let's have a little bit of fun. What if we put the shoe in a rocket to the moon? What if the shoe could talk? What if the shoe had superpowers? Does anyone want to help me with some what ifs? Any 7-year-olds in the room want to help me with some what ifs? No? No 7-year-olds. Anyone? Front row, I'm looking at you because I'm going to be able to hear you. Yes. What if?
What if the shoe wants to fly itself?
What if the shoe wants to fly itself? Love that. Anybody else? And this doesn't feel natural to do because adults, we're conditioned to be so logical all the time, but just have a break from it. Think back to 7-year-old you. Come on, give me some what ifs. Love that. What if the shoe changed color with your mood? That is fun. Did anyone have those mood rings when they were growing up? Love those. Live for them. Great idea. Any other what ifs? I love this. See, I'm getting excited now.
What if my shoe could cook me dinner?
What if my shoe could cook me dinner? Are you all, you're creatives. There's a creative student thing going on here. Okay, I love this. Go ahead. What if the shoe can clean wherever I go? These are way better than mine. I'm embarrassed. Okay, so we have a bunch of what ifs. This is awesome. So see how much fun that is? It's so much better than just predictability. Anyways, so we come up with all these ideas, okay? The next part of the creative process is one of the most underrated. Does anybody know what incubation means? And it's not hatching chickens. Nobody knows. Great, I feel smart now. So incubation is when we step away just for a second and we allow our subconscious mind to do the work for us. It's a very powerful tool and so underrated. Your subconscious mind is so creative. So Einstein, Salvador Dali, they would tap into their subconscious mind through sleep and wake. But I'm not going to fall asleep right now. What I do in my work is I just step away. For minutes, hours, days, if I have days. Very funny, I don't usually, but I will just step away and I'll let my subconscious mind do its thing. Have you ever been walking your dog, cooking dinner, in the shower, and the ideas just pop into your head? Yeah, it's your subconscious mind. Very powerful. Let it do its thing. And then we come back. And what we do now is we start to connect the dots. We pair ideas, we find themes, and then we talk the story through until we land a hook. And what I mean by hook is the big idea. What's the concept? What's the story we want to go out with? So in this case, let's just say, I preferred your ideas, but I really love the idea of the superpower shoe. I think that's cool, it's trendy, it's relevant, but maybe I want to make it feel a bit more relatable. So what if I do have my person walking down the street in the shoe and it does give them superpowers? Or maybe these superpowers are invisible superpowers. So what if it's things like confidence and charisma, and from the outside looking in, people really admire them because they see them walking with a spring in their step? What if we just created the super shoe? Did you see how asking what if allowed us to travel up into this world of opportunity and play with different ideas? And ideas can breed ideas. And then we can lasso one of those and bring it right back down to earth and create something new. And can you see how if you don't go up there and keep playing along this same line of predictability, you will keep creating what you've always created? I think it's kind of boring, you know? Okay, so what I think is, in order to be more creative, we have to practice asking what if. But in order to ask what if, we have to really push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. And honestly, I do this in my day-to-day life. I don't just do this in creative process, because that's very literal. For me, it started a few years ago when I lived in London. I was on a great salary. I had a commission job. I had a house in Chelsea. And I was pretty miserable. And I got physically ill from it. It was really quite sad. And my really good friend at the time, she was going through a heartbreak. And she said to me, what if we just quit everything and go traveling? It's a very millennial thing to do, just quit and go traveling. But in that moment, the penny dropped for me because I thought, I could keep playing along this line of predictability and doing what I think I should do with my life, or I can take a chance on that what if and see what's up there. So I went traveling, and then I came back in 2 months because I spent all my money on alcohol, and I had to move back in with mom and dad, but that's not the moral of the story. The moral of the story is what I came back with is this mindset of asking what if, and taking a chance on things that I'd never took a chance on before, and seeing where that then led me. So I challenge you, start asking what if in your day-to-day life. What if you turn left instead of right on your walk today? What if you start that side hustle? What if you spark a conversation with someone you don't know at this event today? Okay, let's wrap up. So, the world may be facing a creativity crisis, but one thing I know for sure is this. Magic is made by those who dare to think further. But in order to think further, we have to learn to ask what if, to allow our minds to wonder and dream without fear of consequence, and then to share those ideas with the world. Do you remember when you were a kid and all you ever used to do is ask why? That relentless curiosity. Well, what if is the adult version, and today I'm giving you permission to use it. I'm going to end on one last story. It's about my granddad again because #legend. So my granddad, he actually passed away over 10 years ago now of pancreatic cancer. Very sad. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. And when he was in hospital, the nurses said, he's got 2 or 3 days left to live now. But my granddad, he was one of the most optimistic people you would ever meet. And he said he had one last magic trick left in him. And my little brother, he was about 7 years old at the time, very ironically, and he was obsessed with Harry Potter, like obsessed with Harry Potter. And my granddad knew that. And my granddad said, what if I can make it look like he's flying just like Harry Potter? So we were all like, okay. He starts sketching out the design of this new magic trick, and 2 or 3 days go by. And nurses were a bit surprised and a little bit confused, but he's really engrossed in this design. He's figuring it all out, and a couple of weeks go by. Nurses are pretty overwhelmed. They said they'd never seen anything like it. By logic, his body had given up, but his mind was still going. A month went by, and he's still drawing out this trick, and he's really pleased with his work, and he hands the final design over to my dad, and he says, go and build this. So my dad goes away to build it. And the sad part of the story is, Granddad didn't stick around to see that final magic trick, but it's not a sad story. Because what he left behind is a legacy. He left what if. Now I want to leave you with something. Ask a few more what ifs. Dare to think further and watch your life get full of a whole lot more creativity. Just a little bit more magic. Thank you.